Brian Tyler Cohen decided to have a conversation with Cenk about how he's turning right-wing, and it was fascinating. Let's listen.
Now we've got the founder of TYT and host of The Young Turks, Cenk. Cenk, thanks for coming back on.
No problem, Brian.
So we had a conversation a few weeks back where you went to Turning Point USA's AmFest. You took a lot of heat. I defended you going on there. I think Democrats should go into every space possible and defend our values and not cede that ground to the right. So I continue defending you going on there and any other.
Like everybody defended that. Nobody had a problem with Cenk going on the network or the stage or whatever to talk. Everybody was perfectly fine with that, of course. But Cenk pretends to be a victim on that point. It's what he said when he got there that was disturbing.
Other right-wing platform. But at the time, I took issue with you claiming that these people were, quote, for real about fighting against the establishment. And I asked you at the time what your red line would be before you realized that they're not for real about fighting against the establishment, that in fact, there's no long-standing principle among these MAGA people other than just allegiance to Donald Trump. Here's that clip. What's your red line to the point where you finally recognize whether or not the people who you were talking to at Turning Point USA's AmFest, for example, are not actually operating in good faith, and whether there is, again, to my earlier question, no actual longstanding principle, it's other than fealty to the God King, right? Like I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out here, because thus far there has been no indication that even though they say they're for anti-corruption, Donald Trump's the most corrupt guy to ever sit in the Oval Office, even though they say that they're, you know, for the list goes on and on, right? It's the list that we have spoken about earlier. But when will you stop giving certain people at this event, for example, the benefit of the doubt in terms of their actions not matching up to their rhetoric?
My best guess is the anti-war stuff is where the rubber hits the road.
The anti-war stuff. Now, this video came out. Wait, when did this come out? Hold on. 138.
Any of those competing factors?
1 second. 138. On January 19th, 2025, when it was perfectly clear to everybody that Donald Trump fully intended to try to force Greenland or force Denmark into giving up Greenland, even by military force, if necessary. He had already even said that. And all the weird little Trumpy nutcases stood behind him for that. So, I'm not even sure what Cenk is talking about. How can he possibly say this? It's obvious bullshit.
Said that, quote, the anti-war stuff is where the rubber meets the road. So the anti-war stuff. Within days of that interview happening between us, Trump was asked whether he would give an assurance that his threats to annex Greenland and the Panama Canal wouldn't include military force. And here's what he had to say.
Let's start, if we could, with your references to Greenland and the Panama Canal, so forth. Can you assure the world that as you try to get control of these areas, you are not going to use military or economic coercion?
No.
And can you tell us a little bit about what your plan is? Are you going to negotiate a new treaty? Are you going to ask the Canadians to hold a vote? What is the strategy?
Yeah, I can't.
Like to take Canada, because he said he's going to take Canada too. Are you going to ask him to hold a vote? What?
Assure you, you're talking about Panama and Greenland. No, I can't assure you on either of those two.
He said no.
So he said he can't guarantee no military force on Panama or Greenland, but he effectively said, I guarantee no military force on Canada, i.e. military force is on the table. That's the bottom line here.
Clear as day. And guess what? Nobody in his party abandoned him. Not a single Trump acolyte even spoke out against it. There wasn't a word spoken out against him. So I guess my question here is, are you prepared to concede that, like I said, these people do not have any longstanding principles? There is nothing that you can do to shake their support, and that you gave them too much credit for thinking that they care about anything other than allegiance to Trump?
Absolutely. That is so obvious by now, really. You can't deny that.
Yeah, absolutely not. Not even close.
You're completely full of shit.
Close. In fact, I think since then, a lot of interesting things have happened that have showed that I'm closer to right. And remember, I'm saying this as what I'm seeing and what I think is going to happen, but time will tell. So first, on Greenland and Panama, they don't really think he's going to invade Greenland or Panama. They think that that's his usual bluster.
Well, I don't know about anybody else, but Greenland and Panama certainly think that, and so does the rest of Europe. They're putting troops there in Greenland to fight if need be. Iran said they will stand with Europe against the United States if this happens. I cannot communicate adequately how bad for the United States this is. Trump is destroying everything, up to and including our reputation on a worldwide stage. Right now, the United States is holds the world reserve currency, the dollar. The US dollar is stable enough that is like the traded currency in in the world. People trade in US dollars. That's not going to continue for long. That's not going to be forever the way that we're going. At this moment, Trump is destroying the reputation and the currency and the everything so much that it's only a matter of time before the power that the United States has on a world stage is eroded completely. What is wrong with you? You know, I don't believe that Donald Trump is ideological, honestly. I think that Trump maybe he is a more ideological person now than he used to be, but I think he's all about him over anything else. It's all about him, his interests, how he can benefit himself and gain more power and more money and more everything else. That's what I believe he's about. And I believed that for that reason, he wouldn't do things that would really destroy the country. I mean, he would do things that had a possibility of having a very negative long-term effect that could be mitigated down the line when somebody else was voted in. That's what I believed. And I believed that he wouldn't do anything that would destroy the US economy completely because that would hurt businesses. But I don't know anymore. I'm not sure. I don't know at this point. I thought that there was an executive order passed recently that basically did away with income taxes completely and switched to 40% sales tax, which would be absolutely horrifically terrible. That would genuinely destroy everything. Turns out that was a bill submitted by a member of the House of Representatives, not an executive order. But I've come to find that he's willing to do whatever to destroy the country. I don't think he even cares anymore.
So I did some tweets about it just to, almost test, do they have any kind of pushback, et cetera. And people were like, well, I mean, Panama owes us and et cetera. It's not like they think like we do exactly, not really that close. But when you get to, yes, but should we invade Greenland or Panama? Most of the comments were, no.
Well, you're wrong. They stand behind Donald Trump completely and totally. And if you don't see that or you refuse to accept it, then you're a fool.
Of course, we shouldn't invade them, but we should put economic pressure. And I like the way he does his bluster, etc. So
but he's not saying that. He's not just saying put some economic pressure and I'm just doing bluster. When he was asked if we should rule out military force, he said no. To claim that he isn't serious. If you asked anybody on December 19th, when Trump tweeted big protests in D.C., be there will be wild, whether that would amount to an armed insurrection at the U.S. Capitol, most people would say no. And most people probably on the right would say that they don't support that either.
Exactly.
And you and I rightly criticize mainstream media for constantly giving Trump the benefit of the doubt, but you're doing it here.
No, I'm not. So first off, on all the things that Trump did after the election, I was accurate about that too. I said, no, Trump will do anything to stay in power. And he did. So I'm not 1% naive about Trump. So, but invading Greenland and Panama is comical. If he goes to do it, I will guarantee you that a huge portion invading Greenland and Panama is comical. If he goes to do it, I will guarantee you that a huge portion of his base will actually turn on him. And because it's frickin' comical. So, and here I'm not giving the benefit of the doubt to Trump. I'm giving some benefit of the doubt on some issues to his base. In fact, Brian, look at what's happened since we last talked. That this absurd comical conversation about invading Greenland is a tiny minor thing that's not actually going to happen. But what actually did happen is a giant war between Steve Bannon and Elon Musk broke out. So if you're saying, well, they're a monolith, well, which one's the monolith, Bannon or Musk? Because they now absolutely hate each other. Bannon, for all of his
The right is the monolith, not all the weird little sycophants in the inner circle. You know, Germany wasn't a monolith because Goring hated Reinhard Heydrich. So there's your evidence. Germany wasn't a monolith. They were divided all the way down, and they could have gone either way. They almost didn't even go to war because they hated you. What are you talking about? This whole thing is fictitious garbage. That's not how anything works, and Cenk knows that. He can't possibly not know that. Dude is so full of shit. You know what I think is happening right now? I think Cenk is he said something that's really fucking stupid and stood behind an absolutely stupid position, which is to say he was like backing Anna Kasparian in her rightward shift, and being embarrassed by it as he now is, he has to find some justification, some explanation for why he held that position or holds it. Now he has to find some way to excuse his ridiculous, stupid statements and decisions.
evils, and there are plenty of those, and he's massively anti-immigrant, and I'm an immigrant. I'm, again, wide-eyed about that. I'm not naive 1% about that.
No, you absolutely are. You absolutely are naive as shit about this.
But he's talking about raising corporate taxes. He's talking about raising taxes on the rich.
Who is?
And he's talking about how Elon Musk is a donor and that we shouldn't give into that kind of corruption. So,
oh, I think he's talking about Bannon. Bannon is talking about raising taxes on the rich. Well, I mean, Bannon was in the Trump administration first go around and was horrific monster is not the right term. I don't know what term to use to describe Bannon. He used a strategy, Bannon did at the time, that we see Trump repeating now called shock and awe. The shock and awe strategy it goes like this. You remember when Roe v. Wade was undone, and I think it was like a year and a half, maybe 2 years before the midterm elections, 2022, and Republicans were like worried about what was going to happen in the election, and they lost the 2022 midterms by a lot, but they won 2024. Here's how shock and awe works. The public's memory is shorter than a goldfish's memory. People don't remember shit. Pound out as many bills as you possibly can as quickly as possible. Do as much messed up shit as you can in as short a time span as you can. And the media won't have time to address everything that you've done. Just in the past, within Trump's first week, he did so much horrific shit. Like, I can't even cover it all. His anti-trans bills, freezing federal spending, firing a bunch of workers, replacing attorneys general, and a bunch of other things. He did all of this shit all at once, and we can only talk about one thing at a time in the public consciousness. So now we're 4 years away from the presidential election again, and Trump pounded out a bunch of different bills that went completely unnoticed, effectively, because of shock and awe. That was Steve Bannon's brainchild, that strategy that we're witnessing right now. And the public is just gonna, none of this shit's going to matter when all is said and done. Nothing is going to matter about what Donald Trump did in his first week in the next election. So nobody will remember. So anyway, Steve Bannon is not who you want to emulate. You don't want him on your side. If he's fighting for lower taxes, great. He can fight for him over there, and I'll fight for him over here, and we'll live our lives and do our activism separately. Thank you. Blitzkrieg bills, as I called it. Yeah, that's an interesting way to phrase it. I like that.
Raising taxes on the rich. And he's talking about how Elon Musk is a donor and that we shouldn't give into that kind of corruption. So now, on the other hand, I might agree more with Elon Musk on H-1B, but you can't just do binary brain and go, me hate all MAGA.
All right, then let me put it this way. Me hate what Elon Musk does. Everything that he does is for fucked up reasons. He's not fighting in favor of H-1B because he likes immigration. He's fighting for H-1B because he wants to take advantage of indentured servants. He's not fighting for, I don't know, electric vehicles because he's worried about the effects of climate change. He's fighting for them because it would bring him a ton of money. He can fight for electric vehicles on his own in the corner. I don't want anything to do with that. I will argue in favor of reforms that protect us from the worst effects of climate change while he does his weird little thing over there. I don't hate all of MAGA. I hate what each individual person is doing, and I cannot believe that you are justifying anything or any of it, or justifying working with any of them. Like what?
Which ones? Because they now massively disagree.
But the through line between both of them is that all of the glue that holds both factions, the Bannon faction and the Elon together, is that they have an allegiance to Donald Trump. That is the only, again, that's the only...
That they're not even factions. Like, they're just a couple of big nutcases who have interests that kind of don't align with each other, that hate each other. Like, MAGA is aligned behind Donald Trump. These are just a couple of sycophants in his inner circle that are vying for his attention. That's it. That's what's happening right now.
Only long-standing principle between all of these people.
That's not remotely true. Because
well, you're wrong.
If that was true, Bannon would have bowed his head to Musk and said, "Oh,
what? What does that mean? What are you talking about? Where did you get that?"
Okay, well, he is the great donor to Donald Trump.
I hear what you're saying, but look.
That's just a fact, Brian. You can't deny it.
I hear what you're saying with regard to that, but Trump gets a pass in a way that every single underling beneath him doesn't get.
Well, wait a minute, Brian. So that's obviously true, but did Biden not get the same pass for...
We're not talking about Biden. What are you talking about right now? Why did you bring Biden into the conversation? How is he connected to any of this?
A long, long time as his brain was melting.
Biden's brain was not melting. Look, I'm sorry. I need to address this. There's a strategy called the Benjamin Franklin effect, a strategy in like debating and in psychology generally. Benjamin Franklin was in this big conflict with a legislator a long time ago when the country was young. And Benjamin Franklin asked to borrow a book from the guy. They hated each other. And the dude had a cognitive dissonance in his head from that moment forward. He could either do what he viewed to be honorable, which is to loan the book, and in the process, help his enemy. Or he could do the dishonorable thing and not help his enemy. So now, in his head, helping Benjamin Franklin becomes honorable. The two things are inextricably linked. So he loans him the book. And from that moment forward, they worked together on things forever. The Benjamin Franklin effect is where you meet somebody in the middle to try to build a bridge where they're more likely to accept your premises and hear you out and work with you. Saying that Biden is bad is utilizing the Benjamin Franklin effect. Some people will tentatively accept that at family reunions to try to get their MAGA family members to hear them out. Okay, yeah, I agree, Biden's bad, but have you thought about blah, 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 blah. Don't give them that. Don't give them that. Don't meet them in the middle like that. Because now we've found ourselves in a situation where everybody believes that Biden is bad when he's just not. He just wasn't. He was not brain dead. He was perfectly capable of standing up there for like 3 hours and debating Donald Trump and staying on topic and talking about subjects and arguing, ideological and political positions and everything else. Yeah, he had about a 30-second hiccup where he couldn't think of a word. He was looking for a specific word that he couldn't find. Also remember, he had a stutter growing up, and that shit doesn't go away ever. His brain was not melting. I will not give that to you. He was perfectly capable of doing the job. Was he my favorite guy? No, he wasn't my favorite guy. But I'm not giving Cenk the book, if you will, Benjamin Franklin's book of Biden was just mentally gone. It's just not true.
All of the Democrats were like, no, he's young and dynamic. Are you kidding?
Nobody said he's young and dynamic. Who said that, Cenk? What person said that? I'll take one name, anybody. Nobody. But he was perfectly capable of doing the job, obviously.
Kidding me? Are you kidding me?
I think that you prove yourself wrong.
Again, like, what does this have to do with anything again? Why are we even talking about Biden? This isn't about Biden. This is about Trump.
Kidding me.
I think
So
that
let's be real.
you
Hold on,
prove yourself wrong because you were out there. But I'm giving you credit here because you were out there, and the fact that people like you could come out and say that Biden should not be running for re-election. Of course, but look, the majority of people are going to.
So you're admitting that the Democrats are also a cult.
I don't care what the Democrats are. We aren't talking about Democrats. But for the record, no, they're not.
I'm saying that
there's no both sides here. You know when both sides comes in handy? When you're doing the Benjamin Franklin effect. Both sides are not the same. One side is doing mass deportations, checking people's papers, and violating constitutional norms and rights and expectations. And the other side is not giving the tax breaks that you want. They're not the same.
For a lot of the party, they are going to stand behind the president as he's facing re-election against Donald Trump. That's
okay. You're saying
clear
the
as
same
day.
Exact thing.
But nobody.
We have to blindly support a maniacal president who can't even talk or think.
I'm saying nobody is willing or allowed to say an ill word of Donald Trump, even within these so-called competing factions between Bannon and Elon Musk.
It is absolutely true. You don't diss Donald Trump ever. Never.
Is willing or allowed to say an ill word of Donald Trump, even within these so-called competing factions between Bannon and Elon Musk.
Brian. That's not true. Look at
It absolutely is true.
Two primaries. Nikki Haley said a lot of unkind things. DeSantis did for a little while. No, hold on.
That's the primary.
That's a completely different scenario. And did you see what happened when they criticized Donald Trump? He came after their throats. He came for their throats. He tried to destroy them completely. I don't know if Nikki Haley found a spot in Trump's administration. I'm not sure, but I know that DeSantis did not. Trump, he never really forgave DeSantis. And what's weird is DeSantis didn't even say anything like really negative about Donald Trump. He just said that I think I could do it better. You don't get forgiven for that by Donald Trump. The point is that no, you don't speak out against Trump ever.
She's since come around and bent the knee.
No way, now you're misleading.
Bullshit. What is wrong with Cenk, really? This is so sad to watch this downfall.
A real primary and Trump crushed them. We did not have a real primary. All we had was a bunch of jackasses.
What the Democrats had is exactly what Democrats have in primaries where there's an incumbent in place. Incumbents have an advantage that can't be matched by outsiders. It can't be matched. Obama won by like 5 times as many votes as Donald Trump won this go around or something like that. But he didn't win by that much his first term, to my knowledge. Incumbents just have an advantage. This is how it works every single time. There was no primary on the Republican side in 2020. Bill Weld, I think, ran in the primary against Trump, but he got like 1,000 votes or something like that. Like nobody gave a shit about Bill Weld. The point is, this is just how things work. You're describing the political system. Has nothing to do with Democrats being evil or whatever.
Crushed them. We did not have a real primary. All we had was a bunch of jackasses who went, how dare you oppose Biden? To me, to Marianne Williamson, to Dean Phillips. Forgive me and Marianne. To Dean Phillips, a sitting U.S. congressman, they were like, he is being disloyal.
I
Okay, I didn't hear anybody say he's being disloyal. But yeah, that's how primaries work. First time? Like, I thought that Cenk has been involved in politics to some degree for like 20 years. How is this just dawning on him that incumbent advantage comes before all else?
agree with that. That's true.
Joe Biden is great. Joe Biden is young and dynamic. You tell me that's not a bubble, brother? So but what I'm trying to explain to both sides is you're both in bubbles. Please, for God.
No, there is no both sides to be found here. Bullshit. I will not accept this.
God's sake, think objectively. And this is the number one request that I would have.
And also, how did we get here? What does this have to do with anything? I don't understand. We were talking about how you can't argue with Donald Trump. It's like against the rules. Nobody talks bad about Trump. Nobody. You're not supposed to. What does Biden have to do with this? How did we get here? You know how? This is what Cenk always backs into. When he has found himself backed into a corner, He pulls out the old, well, both sides do it. No, they don't.
Of people on our side, which is focus on policy. Don't get into this cult of personality. Oh, that's a Democratic leader, or cult of personality. That's Trump. We have to oppose everything Trump is doing. No, wait a minute. What is the policy? And if they say something that we agree with, for God.
Bro, did this dude just admit that there is a cult of personality around Trump to the degree that you can't criticize him? Isn't that like what Brian Tyler Cohen was arguing this entire time?
I'd say take yes for an answer. In the middle of Trump, imagine we get a couple of wins. I know what the great...
You're not going to get any pushback from me. I agree with that. I would love... Look...
He shouldn't be... This is the Benjamin Franklin effect. He shouldn't be giving any ground here. I get that he just wants to move on because this is pointless to the argument in the first place, but I wouldn't give him the ground if it were me.
If by some miracle we see the minimum wage raise, if we see pro-union legislation passed, if we see the anything that happens that I want to see, I'm not going to trash it just by virtue of the fact that it was signed into law by a Republican president. I still it's the agenda, not the politicians, that I'm advocating for, and however we get there is perfectly acceptable to me. But I guess going back to the initial point, the issue I have here is that while even people, yeah, sure, you'll get pilloried by a majority of the party who, of course, wants to see Joe Biden in the strongest position as he heads toward an imminent election with Donald Trump. But that is different than there being zero people, literally none right now in the Republican Party under the Bannon banner or under the Musk banner. Any of those competing factions, nobody will say an ill word of Donald Trump, and nobody ultimately, at the end of the day, has any allegiance to anything other than whatever Donald Trump says. The Bannon people are not going to abandon. The Bannon people are not going to abandon Donald Trump by virtue of any policy position that he has. In the same
right, this is what I was saying, and I appreciate Brian Tyler Cohen's way of framing it. This is really good. Everybody stands behind Trump. Everybody, every single person. Some of them disagree with Musk. Some of them disagree with Bannon. Everybody agrees with Trump, period. And we found that Trump came out in favor of Elon's position on H-1B visas, and everybody just shut up. They just stopped talking about it. All that arguing they did, saying Elon Musk is just wrong, I will die on this hill, blah, blah, blah. When Trump came out with an opinion, everybody shut up.
Way that the Elon people are not going to abandon him either.
Like, you know what Cenk is doing right now? He's telling us not to believe our lying eyes. We are watching it happen right in front of us. He knows better. And the reason he's doing this, in my opinion, is because he can't admit when he was wrong. He's taking a rightward shift with Anna Kasparian, and he doesn't want to, and he doesn't know how to address his contradictory positions. He doesn't know how to reconcile the cognitive dissonance. I don't believe that Trump even thinks. I'm sorry. I'm not even sure I think that Cenk believes what he's saying right now.
Bannon said that Trump's position on H-1B was wrong. So you're totally counterfactual. So look, guys.
And not a single person will abandon him by virtue of it.
Yeah, not one. But we saw it happen. Nobody abandoned him.
So look, guys.
And not a single person will abandon him by virtue of it.
But first of all, his campaign, his second term hasn't even started, and already there's a giant civil war within his followers.
No, there isn't. What are you talking about? Where are you getting this? Giant civil war among his followers? This happened. This was released on January 19th. Might have happened a couple days before. I don't know. But all the way up to like a week into his presidency. There's no, I have no clue what you're going on about. None of that is manifesting. None of this makes any sense. This is not representing reality at all. I'm giving him extra time to show his point is true, and it's just not.
You don't want to open your eyes because you're thinking Trump, we all have to hate Trump, and we all have to hate all of them. And so my job is to drive my audience to hate them.
Bro, I don't feel an overwhelming drive to hate Trump. I don't even care about his policy because his policy is fictitious. He doesn't even care about policy. Trump is zeroed in on becoming a dictator. That is what I have a problem with over anything else.
and to support blindly ridiculous politicians like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom. No, open your eyes. We have to fight for left-wing policies.
Like, Gavin Newsom is actually the shit. I don't know the other people he mentioned, but Gavin Newsom's awesome. I've covered Gavin Newsom in the past. Like, I don't like these kind of stiff politician-y type of people, but Newsom has been fighting for gay rights since before basically anybody in the Democratic Party. Like, before Hillary, before Obama, before anybody. Gavin Newsom was out there debating when he was mayor of San Francisco, debating on Larry King Live with like televangelists that we should have gay marriage. We should be allowed to get gay married. Gavin Newsom's the shit. I don't know what Cenk's complaint is about Gavin Newsom. I have none.
Policies. Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom didn't give that to us. Joe Biden didn't give that to us. So, and I'm not naive enough to think that Trump, out of the goodness of his heart, is going to do left-wing policies. We got maybe a 10 to 15% chance, if we're really good at this, to take a part of his populist base and to get some positive things done. And we fight.
No, there is absolutely zero chance. Zero. We will not be able to get anything from his base. And you know what? Even if we could, I don't want to work with literal Nazis that give the Sieg Heil salute at inauguration. So Elon Musk can sit in the corner and work on these things if he wants, and I'll be over here working on them on my own.
Back on the rest, but we have to stay in the factual world instead of the world we want. And apparently, a lot of the folks on the left want a world where we all hate each other. They hate us because of racism, blah blah blah. We hate them because they say they're racism. Oh, great culture wars! We're at each other's throats. And look at the idiot Republicans now trying to deny California wildfire aid because they say your governors are incompetent. But see,
Right. Trump, I believe, or other, Republican politicians have said that they're going to deny California aid after the fires ravaged LA because they want like all Democratic governors to resign, basically, to my knowledge. How do you think you can work with these people? I don't understand.
we have to take care of that on our own. And then that's where you fight back against the Republicans. And I've been going crazy these last couple of days going, all right, then the next time there's a natural disaster in Alabama or Mississippi, you want to talk about incompetent? They rank 49th and 50th in every category. That's it. I'm denying aid to Alabama and Mississippi. Because why do
you don't deny aid to states that need it. You don't do that. That helps nobody. I don't care what reason you have. If a hurricane rams into Alabama or whatever, you help as a federal government, period.
Why do I do that? Because I have some credibility in the right wing now because I am honest. And so when I say, guys, if you deny us aid, we're going to deny you aid, okay? It at least breaks through. Whereas when you just have the partisan camps and rah, rah Biden, rah, rah Trump, you're just not being factual. You're just trying to rah, rah people. And unfortunately, it's created these giant bubbles. So please wake up. Bannon and Musk are at war. So figure out, hey, who's right?
They're really not. They're really not at war. And, you know, I guess they don't like each other, I suppose, and they're arguing with each other, whatever. That doesn't translate in any way to war within Trump's whatever.
Right, who's wrong about particular issues. And if one of them says something we agree with, as much as we loathe them, and if they can...
Like, I don't loathe them. I am horrified and disgusted by what they do, by the policies that they push. If they suddenly change their mind on things, fantastic. I am down to work with them, but they haven't changed their mind on any of this shit. They're Nazis, literal Nazis. And until they're not anymore, I want nothing to do with them. I don't care.
Create momentum, Bannon. I'm skeptical, very, very skeptical about this. But if Bannon could create momentum for increasing corporate taxes, correct answer is yes. And
like, here's my hang up with this. Here's what I don't understand and what I would like to ask Cenk. How does it benefit us to, like, how would you work with Bannon? In what way would you work with him? Because as far as I can see, the only thing that you are doing to, quote unquote, work with Bannon to accomplish things is talking about how good he is and how he's doing good things. how is that furthering the goal of raising taxes on the rich? I don't understand. You know, when the rubber meets the road, if you went with some lobbying efforts to like organize this lobbying group where you get like 50 or 100 people down to down to DC to speak to their representatives and convince them to raise taxes on the rich, and you and Bannon both organize together, and afterward you get, you go down there and canvass, you go down there and do door knocking and stuff together. That would be working with Bannon. If he wants to do that and we stick strictly to the subject of raising taxes for the rich, okay, I would consider that. I don't know that I'd do it, but I'd think about it. What are you doing that you think you're working with Bannon to accomplish? How are you accomplishing higher taxes on the rich by telling us that Bannon is a good guy or that he's doing a good thing? I don't understand how that helps anything. What do you think you're accomplishing? As far as I can tell, the only thing you're accomplishing is rehabilitating Bannon's reputation. That's helping nobody.
Help him fight against Musk. If Musk is right about something, help him fight against Bannon. That way we get to have a voice and we get to be a part of the equation.
How? In what way do you get a voice or become part of the equation if Musk loses this argument between him and Bannon? How? I'm not connecting dots here. Like, I'm trying. I'm on the struggle bus here. Tell me what the end result is. Best case scenario. Tell me how you think helping Steve Bannon benefits our cause.
But if you just sit there and go, no, me hate Trump,
I mean, you can say Bannon stands for higher taxes on the rich. I don't believe that for a single second. But again, how does that help us? Okay, great. Now what?
Which one is Trump? Which one is Trump?
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but it's not that what I'm saying is we hate Trump. It's that what I'm saying is that at the end of the day, there is nothing that Donald Trump could do to push away any of these people, and that when you suggest that your red line, for example, is that they're anti-war, that at the end of the day, nothing he can do is going to push these people away. If we can watch this guy incite an armed insurrection at the U.S. Capitol and have all of these people initially speak out against it, only for them all to ultimately come back home, and there is not a single Republican in good standing in the Republican Party. Liz Cheney is out of the party. Adam Kinzinger is out of the party. Those are
Absolutely agreed.
only two people who are willing to speak out. Everybody else has since come back home to Trump. There is nothing he can do. If it's not going to be an armed insurrection at the U.S. Capitol that's going to push these people away, the notion that a policy decision that he could make is going to have enough weight behind it to finally push these people away. They have shown by virtue of coming back home to him that nothing he can do. I mean, like, we joke about him saying that I can shoot.
He hasn't even started in this term. What you're talking about is true for the past. That is definitely true. Look.
Oh yeah, so something that we have no reason to believe is going to happen. We've never seen anything like this before in our lives. We have no indication that it could possibly play out this way, but we're supposed to believe that on pure speculation, it's going to happen the way that you suspect it might. What is going through your head? Really? I don't understand, like, how he's here. My only sorry, my glasses are dirty. My only assessment is that Cenk knows he's full of shit and is trying to backtrack or trying to defend a stupid fucking position that doesn't make any sense at all. I don't know how else to, like, take this, truthfully.
Look, I'm the very last person to defend Trump on Trump's terms. I did a loser Donald segment. I literally did 100 of them before the 2016 election. Before this election.
Are you trying to signal to us how much you hate Trump? Like, I don't care if you hate Trump. It's irrelevant. I don't care if you hate Biden or whatever. I don't care. That has nothing to do with it.
And we did more Trump madness, 64 of the worst things he's ever done. So I know how dangerous Donald Trump can be. I know what an egomaniac he is.
Right. And I'm not challenging you on that. But go on.
Yeah. So I know who I'm dealing with here, but he also likes to be popular. So if we can feed into the direction that makes him more popular, which is passing our laws, our policies, then great. But you're giving up before this term has even begun.
Giving up what? What am I giving up by not working with Steve Bannon?
We're not looking to get Trump to do like marvelous 85% of Bernie Sanders' policies. That's
Yeah.
for Cocoa Puffs. That's never going to happen, right?
Yeah.
But if we get 15%, that's a lot better off. If we can contain his worst impulses by going and finding allies in the right wing that agree with us, that would be much better in containing.
Okay, hypothetically speaking, let's just pretend for a moment that we're in another world. I found them, Cenk. I found people that agree with us. Now, what's the next step? What do we do now? How do we leverage this into benefiting us? The answer is we don't. They can fight for their positions all they want. That doesn't benefit us in any way, shape, or form. There is no next step after finding somebody that agrees with us who's on the far right. There's no next step.
His worst impulses instead of driving towards it. And please, look, this is the same for our audience, and we're trying to be honest with everyone. And obviously, of course, we're getting punished for it. You look at the comment section here, turncoat binary thinking. If he's criticizing Democrats, that must mean he loves Trump. I'm sick of it. It's just maddening. Please snap out of the hypnosis you guys are all. Are you kidding me on not being able to challenge Trump? First of all, they did challenge Trump. He won. On Biden, it was the most legitimate challenge in history. And everybody said, shut up and fall in line behind a guy who's in obvious mental decline.
Who said that? Who said shut up and fall in line? Brother, I am just lost.
Who's talking about how his uncle was eaten by cannibals. And what did our side do? Everybody said, shut up and fall in line.
Who said this? I don't know what you're talking about. Shut up and fall in line? You can have your opinions on things, of course, but, you know, I might or might not want anything to do with you afterward is all. I'm sorry, that's how it works. Welcome to reality.
And objecting to leadership is unacceptable. And by the way, Brian, they'll do it again. They'll put up another corporate robot like Pete Buttigieg or Gavin Newsom in 2028, and they'll tell you, shut up. You're not allowed to disagree. Unity. If you disagree, you're a Republican.
Nobody ever said any of this. Nobody believes this. You can criticize. Jon Stewart criticizes the left all the time. You know what I don't like, though? When you focus solely on the left and get as close to the right as you possibly can. Go to all of the right-wing events and speak at all of their conferences and say that you really like what they're up to and you want to work with them, and then talk shit relentlessly about the left nonstop. Biden's old, Biden sucks, nobody likes him. He's, I don't know, he used to be a Klan member, whatever the fuck, I don't know. Whatever stupid shit you say about him. You can criticize him, but in my opinion, if you're criticizing him for something that, God, I'm going to have to think about this. I'm not sure if I believe this or not. I'm going to have to think it through more, but tentatively, I'm going to say, if you criticize Biden for something that, like, both the parties do, or that the other party does worse, it's a waste of your time, and your intent is pretty clear. Like, you shouldn't be criticizing Biden for taking donor money, massive amounts of PAC money right now. You should be criticizing Trump for that. If you want to fix the system, criticize the worse of the two evils for things that they both do. That's what I'm thinking. I think that's my position. Now I'm just trying to form out this idea a little bit more. Biden is not as bad as Donald Trump. I think that everybody here can agree with that. Biden was not as bad as Trump on a ton of things. Biden didn't want to delete democracy effectively in the U.S. Trump does, and is very clearly on his way to doing so, right? So by virtue of that alone, Trump is worse than Biden, right? If there's something that they both do that I don't like, we should be criticizing Trump for doing it rather than Biden, because Trump is worse in every other way. I'm thinking that's where I stand with it. Trump takes donor money. Trump supports Israel in disturbing, disgusting, horrific ways. I don't know what other things they both do. We should be criticizing the worst of the two evils for those things. But what bad things does Biden do that Trump doesn't do? In what ways is Trump better than Biden? Is there a way? Any way at all? I don't know of a single way in which Biden's worse than Trump. So we shouldn't be criticizing Biden at all. We should only be criticizing the things we don't like about Biden about Trump, it seems to me. I don't know. Tell me what you think. I just I'm still formulating the idea. Let me know if you agree with it or disagree.
To pick the worst corporate candidate there is. We have to pick a deeply corrupt establishment figure. Otherwise, that's it. You're in favor of Trump. So forget.
Like, you don't look, that's what the primaries are for. You don't have to pick the deep establishment figure. You can pick Marianne Williamson in the primaries if you prefer. You can pick anybody you want in the primaries. But when it comes time to vote in the in the general election, you need to vote for the lesser of two evils. If you don't, you are equally as responsible here.
If you're on the left and if you're watching this, you're supposed to disobey. We're the left. We're not supposed to fall in line. We're supposed to have interesting, dynamic, different intellectual ideas.
You can. Nobody's telling you can't do that.
We're supposed to care for everyone. We're not supposed to say we care for everyone except MAGA and half the country, I hate them, and we should never talk to them, and all we should do is yell at them and assume that they're all idiots. That is not a left-wing position. That is not an inclusive position. Please wake up.
But I don't.
Right? The Democratic politicians have been miserable failures, and not of the Republicans, and not of the country, of us. They never deliver for us.
Okay, again, I don't know what that has to do with you defending Donald Trump. I'm lost.
I don't think that Democrats are. Look, I don't think that Democrats are doing that though, and they've proven in office that they're not doing that. When Trump, listen. When Trump was ending his first term, every Democrat voted for the CARES Act because they recognized that it would help the American people, even though doing so would give Trump a win. And then, of course, when Republicans tried to pass, when Democrats came into office and tried to pass the American Rescue Plan, it wasn't passed with any support from Republicans. Maybe a few Republicans voted for it, but they didn't do that. And then Democrats came back into office. We have the bipartisan infrastructure law. We have the bipartisan gun safety law. We have all.
Obamacare was originally written by the same people that wrote Project 2025. Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, was written by the Heritage Foundation. This is a prime example of why we need to not meet in the middle on some things. We should not be meeting in the middle on some things. Why is this deer going like 2 miles an hour? What's your deal? Go faster, you. Faster! Why aren't you moving? There. Okay. Anyway, we need to not meet in the middle. We need to start negotiation further to the left than we want to be, because we will move toward the center throughout the negotiation. And if it's going to be gridlock, it's going to be gridlock.
All of these benefits conferred to red states, red districts, red areas for the infrastructure law, the CHIPS Act. So Democrats do not just defer blindly to, okay, what can help us politically. They're perfectly content to bring Republicans in if it's going to help them, even if it's voting for legislation that will reflect better on Donald Trump himself. So Democrats aren't just this party where we're going to blindly take whatever wins and lock Republicans out. They've proven by virtue of how they govern that they're not willing to do that.
Yeah, so that's a fair point, Brian, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because you're right. And why am I on the left? Why am I a Democrat, right?
He's not. He pretends to be. He's really not.
Because I agree with those policies, and I agree with the way of thinking about caring for everyone else. And Bernie Sanders' slogan was fight for someone you don't know, right? And I love that. That is at the core of the Young Turks.
Yeah.
So the Democrats are terrific at getting disaster relief to everyone. And as I said earlier in the show, the Republicans don't. And that's their Republican politicians who are drive division in this country. And by the way, they drive a lot of the identity politics and a lot of the culture wars. They love to do that so you don't notice as their donors rob us blind. If you're talking about corporate Republican Congress people, I have zero faith in them. And by the way, the only people who can get them in line to vote for anything that we want is not Democrats. Unfortunately, the reality is the only one that can get them to vote for anti-war or anything along those lines is Donald Trump, because he could bully them into submission. And so I'm clear-eyed about that. But when we talk about, hey, I don't want to listen to Republicans, I don't want to listen to Trump, and I don't want to listen to anyone who's a right-wing voter, and I think they're all fascist, and they're And then you've got Bannon and
But did somebody say that all right-wing voters are fascist? All are fascist? First time hearing of it.
Musk at this. I use it as an example. In these 4 years, you're going to see that they're going to have non-stop internal fights. And I'm curious whether anyone in the audience is going to go, hey, you know what? Cenk said that was going to happen. The Young Turks said that was going to happen.
I mean, of course they're going to have internal fights. That's what happens when when a party controls the majority. That's what happens. Yes, I never suspected that they wouldn't. I don't know how this furthers your goals or interests or beliefs or anything. What are you talking about? So what? Yes, there are going to be internal fights. Like when a party is in distress or when like a group is like in trouble, they're not they don't have as many votes or as much support as they need or whatever, they inevitably gain a lot of support through unity alone. Everybody realizes how important it is to stay unified. And the party that's in control in that moment doesn't value unity to the same degree. That's a good time to argue when they have complete control. So yes, of course that's going to happen.
Just like we said it about Biden, just like we've said it about Tulsi Gabbard and how she was never a progressive. And we called all of these things out accurately. I'm curious if our side is ever going to be fair.
Fine, great. Yes, you were right that, or you will be right that there will be Republican infighting. So what? You think you're an oracle now? I don't understand. What point are you getting at?
And goes, yeah, no, you're right. It turns out they do have these giant conflicts. Jump in there, help support corporate tax increases.
I mean, I have always argued in favor of corporate tax increases. So I will change literally nothing and be doing exactly what you're describing. He's not telling us that we should support corporate tax increases. He's telling us we should support Steve Bannon because he's in favor of corporate tax increases, supposedly. He claims to be. Again, I'm not supporting Steve Bannon for shit. I don't know how that would even help me. How would that benefit me to stand up for Steve Bannon? What are you talking about? Oops.
Right? But if you just go, no, I want to shut off. I think they're all evil. I don't want to understand the difference between Bannon and Musk. I don't want to understand the difference between the corporatists in the Republican Party and the populists in the...
Okay, I understand the difference. Now what? What do you expect me to do? In your ideal world, I now see the difference and want to work toward whatever. Now what? Cenk's answer is probably side with them, shower them with praise, talk about how they're doing the right thing and all of that. No, thank you. I will repeat the message that they are repeating. That's what I will do. That is the extent of it. These people care about nobody but themselves and their own ends. Bottom line.
Economically and populist socially. Well, that is, again, a very anti-left-wing position, an anti-intellectual position, where you go, I'm shutting off my mind. I'll just let the Democratic politicians think for me. And
like, bro, I'm not shutting off my mind. I'm not letting them think for me. I'm just recognizing that there is the lesser of two evils. There is a lesser of two evils situation that we have here. And I don't understand how you are missing this or how you expect supporting Steve Bannon to help anything.
Dutifully obey them in every primary and make sure that I support some sort of corporate goon who
But that's not true.
never delivers on their promises. Let's go. Let's get up and fight back. And by the way, the number one thing you should do is take the Democratic Party back. And that 2028 primary is going to be the most important vote of your life. If you vote for another one of these establishment figures, we're going to get slaughtered in the next election.
I don't believe that's true. I don't believe that at all. And the reason I say that is because I've come to find that the progressive wing of the party is significantly smaller than I expected it to be. I thought the progressive wing of the party would be like the majority. It's just not. The majority of the country wants a stiff, politician-y type of person. I realized that after the 2020 primaries when Bernie was running and who else? Biden and some other people. And Biden very clearly, he was the establishment kind of career politician choice, and he won handily. He won without any effort at all. It wasn't even close. that is when I realized the country just doesn't want that. They just don't want progressives. I do, but nobody else does. And if we were to get a progressive in the primary, like if, for example, if AOC won the primary, I believe we would lose the general election because because the country's so right wing ultimately, and it's always been like this. It's always been very straight-laced, proper. They've always wanted somebody that is professional and seems like they deserve the job, quote unquote, and stuff like that. That's just how it is, for better or worse.
How many times have we said on the Young Turks, populist is the way to go? Bernie would have won, and the polling indicated that. It was
I don't think so. No, the polling was wrong, I came to find. And I don't think the polling ever indicated that Bernie would have won.
indisputable polling, and mainstream media lied to you, and the Democratic leadership lied to you. And I'm trying to...
I don't think that's true. I was a Bernie fan. I voted for Bernie both in... Well, you know what? Yeah, in 2020 and in 2016, I believe I voted Bernie both times. I'm just wondering if I voted in the primaries at all in 2020. I don't remember. But anyway, I voted for Bernie. I'm a Bernie supporter to the death. He is one of the few honest people in the political realm, in my opinion. He does things because he believes them. And he accepts science, and I stand behind him 100%. Bernie and I have disagreements on things. Like, for example, he is opposed to nuclear energy. I am in favor of nuclear energy. But he's honest, and that's what I care about. I don't think that he has any chance of winning anything, honestly. He's just not general election material, because people want somebody straight-laced and proper and all of that other shit. I've said this before. I'm going to say it again, though. My grandpa worked as a machinist on trains that carry coal from West Virginia to, wherever else they go, Virginia or whatever, Georgia and stuff. And he voted blue his entire life. The union came in and told him, you need to vote blue because Republicans are trying to get rid of the unions. So if you want to stay part of the company, if you want to stay in the union, you got to vote blue. And he did. He's more conservative than me. He believes, or I don't even know if he's ever considered the concept of trans person in his life. I don't think that he's ever met a trans person in his life, for that matter. He and I probably, at the very least, would disagree on lots and lots of stuff. The Democrats aren't just catering to me. They're not just appealing to me. They have to win his vote too. You can't just get progressives to vote and to, pass all this legislation. You can't just get them to run the country or to control the elections. That's just not how it works. I get 10% of what I want. My grandpa gets 10% of what he wants. You get 10% of what you want. Everyone gets 10%. That's how election works. Cenk doesn't want 10%. He wants 100%, and he wants everybody else to have 0%. I get it, but that just isn't how it works.
To get people to stop believing in the Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden lies. How much clearer does it have to be? The guy still says that he would have won and that Kamala would have won, even though we just had the election and she lost.
I don't know. Joe Biden might have won. I'm not sure. Biden won by a lot in 2020. Oh my God, he won by so much. He won by double or even triple what Trump won by this go around.
Please
Cenk,
stop listening to these guys.
Who to end this on a note of levity here, who are you looking at as we head toward 2020? And I know this is a ridiculous question, but just so that we can, I don't know, for a moment of levity here, who would you like to see as we head toward 2028? Is it somebody that we even know about right now, or is there somebody that you're just waiting to come out?
I've heard AOC's talking about it. I believe that she's old enough as of 2028.
Out of the woodwork that we don't even know about. And kind of in the same way that nobody really knew who Barack Obama was before he came onto the scene in 2008.
Yeah. So look, we should look outside of politicians. So there are very few politicians that have not been corrupted by the system. So that's and so Donald Trump has this fake populism. He doesn't mean it. He just wants money, right?
100%.
Yeah, but he does it effectively because the country's dying for populists. So, but all of our politicians have grown up in a system where they take endless corporate PAC money and they serve endless corporate PAC money. So, number one, if you're going to pick a politician, it has to be someone that doesn't take corporate PAC money. Like
that is not necessarily true. That's just how the system works. You can't operate without doing certain things, unfortunately, for better or worse. I don't want super PACs to exist at all, but they do. We have to operate within the framework that we have, or we will literally never win another election.
Like Ro Khanna. So that's as close to Bernie as you can get is the direction I would go, given that Bernie's way too old. Now, but go outside of politics. Give me a Jon Stewart. Give me a Sean O'Brien, a Sean Fain, a labor leader, an entertainer, someone who's, by the way, Jon Stewart has fought for the average guy before. He's fought to get for first responders health insurance and health.
The presidency, that job can be done by anybody, but it can't be done well by anybody. It can only be done well by people that know what they're doing in the first place. And Jon Stewart has no experience governing. He might be able to do it, though. I don't know. I haven't thought about Jon Stewart. Like, Pete Hegseth is going to be the Secretary of State, I believe, or Secretary of Defense. He has no qualifications for this. This is a difficult job. You don't just walk into this and do it. You know, in Germany, after Hitler died and all that stuff, they had to decide which was more important. Feeding the people in the winter of 1945 or denazifying. It could only be one because the Nazis controlled food distribution and production. Like, the heads of industry were Nazis. And you can't take one of those people out and stick another person in. It's apparently a lot more difficult than that. It just doesn't work that way. It's a difficult job that requires experience and skill. And for that reason, in my personal opinion, I think I probably would have removed all of the Nazis anyway. And maybe I would have even sent somebody to Germany from the US that knew how to do that job to do it instead of leaving the Nazis in their place. But the point is that you can't just do the job. You can't just step into the role and now you're doing it. It does not work that way. I found that Donald Trump, when he took control of the presidency, I realized that anybody can do it, but not anybody can do it well.
Healthcare, et cetera, in New York. So give me somebody honest, give me somebody authentic, give me someone who's populist left wing. And that is, and I'm so glad you asked that, Brian, because don't lose track of the fact that 2/3 of the country agrees with almost all of our economic policy positions. Paid family leave, higher minimum wage.
This is not correct, some of this. I agree with all of those things, but 2/3 of the country does not agree with all of those things, unfortunately. Like universal health care. That is not believed or endorsed or supported or whatever by 2/3 of the country or anywhere near it. I think it's like 1/3 of the Democrats or something like that. It's a lot lower than one would think.
Universal health care, even free college. I can go all the way down the list. 2/3 of the country is populist progressive. We have to give them a candidate in a general election. If we do, we will win overwhelmingly. If we don't...
That's just not true. That's just not how it works. It just isn't. And I can't believe that somebody like Cenk, who's been involved in politics for so long, doesn't know that.
Then you're going to have J.D. Vance or some other goon, and they're going to win till the rest of the time, until the Democratic Party realizes, go populist.
Right. I mean,
go back to the establishment.
To your point, Democrats have been winning referendums and ballot measures while the candidates who espouse those very positions continue to lose on the same fucking ballot. So if that is not a testament to the fact that our message is correct, our messengers are absolutely wrong, I don't know what is. Also, I should note that this is...
Like, politics shouldn't be a charisma contest, but it is. People just need to be popular to win. Now, I think if they endorsed more positions that I agree with, like universal health care and things, I think it would be balanced out by the absolute destruction from the Republican Party that would come their way. They would scream communist in their faces, and they're going to do that anyway, but they would zero in on it even harder and probably make it even harder for them to win. That's my guess. I'm not sure.
The second interview this week that I've had, I also spoke with Kyle Kalinske, and he also brought up Jon Stewart. And by the way, just throwing it out there, in large part, the reason that I got into politics and the reason that I do what I do is because I grew up watching Jon Stewart as well. So we got 3 votes for Jon Stewart right now in the progressive media ecosystem. So
there's no way. I don't believe Stewart is going to do it. I would vote for him for sure. Jon Stewart's the shit. I just don't see it happening. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
So, just if anybody from Stewart's show is watching out there, he's got 3 guaranteed votes here. Cenk, I appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate you being willing to engage in these debates. For anybody watching who's upset that we can engage in these debates on the left, I think that's absolutely wrong. I think that
nobody believes that. He's feeding into something that's complete nonsense. He doesn't even believe this. He doesn't believe that anybody has a problem with debates happening. Some random loser in their basement might have a problem with it. Who knows? Basically, nobody cares if you debate.
It's healthy and good.
But Cenk is convinced that, the left thinks that debating is wrong or some stupid shit.
Good to have these conversations. If you don't want to see any conflict within the left-wing media ecosystem, this isn't the right channel. I think it's important to elevate all viewpoints here, and we have nothing to lose by virtue of doing it. It's okay to have these conversations. It's okay to engage with people across the spectrum, especially in this moment right here where introspection is the number one most important thing as we move forward, and try to figure out what's going to be the correct way to move forward as we head toward 2026 and 2028. So Cenk, I appreciate you being a good sport here and having these conversations and having these debates with me and other people in the left of center ecosystem here. So appreciate you taking the time today.
Thank you, Brian. Let me just say last thing here. To your point, the Claire McCaskill election in Missouri was a perfect example, and I'm saying so we all do the right thing in the future. She was running at the same time as minimum wage was a ballot measure in Missouri, and the establishment told us, and she told us, no, I'm not going to run on that issue. I'm smarter than you guys. I'm so elite. You just follow my...
Okay, I don't think she said that. That doesn't sound right at all, but whatever. I mean, honestly, represent people, please.
I lead. I know exactly what I'm doing. She lost by 6. That measure won by 26.
Yeah.
Let's stick with Democratic positions. Do not listen to the politicians who are serving the donors. Our policy positions are deeply popular.
Look, Kamala Harris ran on higher minimum wage and all of that other stuff that he's talking about. By and large, Kamala Harris was running on all the things he's complaining about right now. It's just she lost because Republicans demonized her into the ground. That's how Republicans operate. That's just what it is.
Insist on your politicians and your representatives actually doing and fighting for the policies that you love, that it turns out the rest of the country loves as well. So expect better of your Democratic politicians. And the way you get to better is by challenging them, not just by blindly following them. So I appreciate this conversation, Brian. And then finally, if you guys want to know what we really think on the Young Turks.
I don't. No, I'm kidding. I actually know what they really think. And they're moving toward Trump, sadly. Anna Kasparian is basically a Trump supporter now.
We're live 6 o'clock Eastern every day on YouTube. You come check us out, see for yourself, rather than letting other people tell you what we're thinking. Well, we're obviously not afraid to tell you what we think. So we'll be honest with you. Check it out every day, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern.
Unfortunately, I feel like Brian Tyler Cohen didn't hold his feet to the fire enough. That's probably because he's not used to this kind of adversarial system. That might be why. I wouldn't hold his feet to the fire adequately either, because I'm not used to this adversarial system either. But anyway, it was an interesting conversation, at least. It's just a shame to see how far Cenk has fallen, honestly. Yeah, tell me what you think about it in the comments.